Hey everyone, this is Zoras, not Casuals. In today's video, I'm going to talk about Art of Conquest, and I'm going to give you some of my best tips for how to do a proper formation for PvE content, PvP content, as well as Siege. So the main content in this game is usually PvE, which is called player versus environment. So as for example, one of these daily mazes, you can do it, you see as it goes into difficulty, it will get harder and harder as you do it every day. When you are inside of these, obviously you will try and adapt your formation to what you are facing. Now, you can obviously use this board here that helps you have preset formation. For example, you can use the last or the previous one, and the rest is all pre-saved. Like I have full formations like this one that will take a little time to load, but you'll see it's like a full army. Now there's some units missing because I'm currently healing some of them after some fighting, but you can see that this one is completely empty, so it's ready for me to set up. You can also change their names by clicking here. So this is a very useful tool, especially because sometimes you have to do like 50 of these dailies in one day, and this can help you achieve that much faster. Now, my first tip for when you do content, especially content like this, which is a bit easier, is you don't want to have a full formation like all your heroes, so many units. I prefer to use this. For example, now I have 2 heroes, which cost 1 energy each, and only 2 units because I can only bring 2 considering who the heroes are, which means that this content will take me only 2 energy. Now, I personally believe that saving your energy as much as you can is a really good idea, because eventually later on in the game, the more energy you have to use on some of the late content, the more rewards you can get. So this is my basic tip. First of all, I'm using my 2 gold tanky troops because I don't want to have wounded. You can also sometimes use some healer, or like in my case, I could use some of these priests if I had another champion than this one. Like for example, I could remove him and add, let's say, someone like Virion or something that tanks and heals these kind of troops and revives them if they die. And then you can put something like 2 healers at the back like this, and that will basically make sure that you don't really lose any units. Now, my Bazrik here is very strong, so he usually carries this by himself. I could probably do this with only him, but in this case, I find that safe formation like this works very well. Now, as you can see, I am done. It took only a few seconds, and you will see that I have no injuries. Nothing of my troops has been hurt, which basically means that I can keep doing this. I've lost 2 energies from these guys, but they've also gained some experience, quite a bit actually, so that's really worth it. So this is basically the basics for when you're trying to do some of these content. Now, these little guys is much easier. You can only use 1 hero and like any kind of troops. I've not cleared them all because there's so many around the map, but you can see that the PV content usually is much easier in that sense. Now, when you're going to be fighting other players, this is where it is very important to have the best kind of formation possible. Now, the reason for that is that if you look in your hero sheet here and you look at your total attributes, you can see here that this is the total attributes from all of my heroes, and this counts when you're doing in a duel basically. So basically what that means is that when you're dueling another player, whoever has these numbers higher than the other player will have these kind of bonuses up to 30% of every stat, which basically means that you want to have as many heroes as possible, both in your inventory that you own, but also on the battlefield fighting for you, because they are one of the most important part of this game. But also you want all of them to be as high level and as best equipped as possible, because this is going to be making a big difference when you fight any other players. I cannot stress this enough. This is very important. So this is why this game is so important, to have as many of the heroes as possible. Now, a lot of them like Mako can be unlocked from just the void, as well as some of them can be unlocked with chests, and some of them can be unlocked with money, of course. But as you play the game, you will be able to unlock more and more of these heroes, and this is really one of the biggest importance in this game. For example, I'll just show you a kind of formation that I would use against another player. Now, this is War that I call it. In this formation, I have every single one of my hero except one, because I just got him and I still need to train him up. And I also use the special unit, which could be replaced by more heroes or more archers, for example, and the dragon. Now, I wouldn't say that this formation is the best in the world, of course. I am not like a huge player and I'm not paying a lot of money, but one of the biggest tip I can give you if you're fighting other players is the dragon is one of your biggest tools, especially if you have a good dragon with good AoE damage skills. And I also like to put him in the backline a little bit to protect him. And I use Varian and Basric in the front line because they don't die very easily. It takes a long time for them to die, and they do a lot of damage. And then the dragon comes behind, so he's not being targeted, but he's doing all of his abilities. Now I use a few healers and a few troops here and there, and obviously the front line you try and be as tanky as possible with some gold units, as well as some gold archers if you have them, or gold range units. And one other thing that I would say is very important, especially now at this stage of the game for me, is that my Avalon has this ability that when he starts a battle, he gives an attack speed boost to everyone around him. Now, if I take him off, you'll see this blue little thing that will, the little fire that just appeared. There we go. I'll just show it. Boom. You need the little fire and the little blue boost that these units got. If I do it again, you'll see. It basically means that they're getting his buff. Now, it's everybody who's around him right now, so all of these. So I try and put him kind of like here in the center. Now my dragon has it, and these two heroes, which are range heroes that do a lot of damage, will also get this buff, which will make them stronger at the beginning of the fight and give me an edge. Now, when you start the fight, obviously, you'll have a lot of abilities to choose. Now, I'm not going to go too much in detail about what these abilities are. I'll just pause this for a second just to go over some of it. I recommend usually that you use the Favor of the Sun God as soon as you can at the beginning of the fight, because it basically heals all your troops and it lasts a long time. So if you activate it early, it will heal for many seconds afterwards while you're using other abilities and you're summoning new units and stuff. Also, summoning units, like I said, the archers here and the crusaders here, those are for me specifically two of my best heroes, and those abilities are some of the highest leveled abilities that I have. So this is going to be something that I use very quickly. Now this will be different for every player, and as I said, I'm still very early in the game, so this meta changes very much later on. But for the beginning, you want to make sure that the units and the heroes that you have specialized the most in terms of both research and abilities are the ones that you are both protecting and focusing on their abilities when fighting other players. Now, my last tip about formation is going to be about when you siege a castle or an enemy city. Now, this is an enemy city that I could attack that is already on fire and pretty weak, and these are guard towers that are basically not controlled by human players, but they're put there to defend. I'm going to attack one of them that's a bit weaker level just to show you how it works. Now, one of the most important parts is when you start the attack here, you'll see that it gives you a profile. It basically tells you what unit spec you have for your heroes, as well as the item set that they're using and the dragon that you're using. As we know from my previous guide where you're changing a lot of the sets to have more command to train units and stuff like that, you could have these not on the right set, and this could impact you very heavily, because if you have a full command set on your heroes, they basically will do no damage and they'll die quickly and you would lose instantly. And the one thing to know about formations and sieging a city is that once you launch the attack, you cannot retreat, cancel, leave, or restart. If your units die or you lose units, which you will when you attack, like units do die, you won't be able to cancel that or redo as you would with PvE content. This is the difference between these two. So of course, make sure that this is okay. And then when you go into attack, obviously, I suggest having a preset formation for siege. Now I have one that uses only bronze units so that when they die, I don't care. And one that uses all my best units possible so that I can do the most damage, but that will require me to retrain and heal. For this purpose here, I will use the bronze siege. Now, my first and biggest tip about this is that when you do any kind of siege, you need at least 3 catapults. You will see that the enemy wall is separated in 3 categories. So there's 3 walls, all with 1 range unit on them. Now you will see that as well in your own wall. When you are setting your units and you're placing them, you will have 3 units put on the wall. So this is where it is. I recommend 1 on each extremity and 1 kind of like anywhere in the middle, basically. And why I do that is because once you've destroyed all the units in the open field, the ones on the wall, you cannot destroy them. Like your units here will not do damage to the wall that much, and the units on top will keep attacking and killing all your heroes and all your units without any kind of like defense. You can't do anything about it. But when you have a catapult and attacks the wall, if it does high damage to the structure, the units on top of it also die very quickly. So basically what that means is that every time you siege, you almost must 100% have these siege weapons, especially at the beginning. Now, as you get longer, later into the game, you'll have special units and special abilities that also destroy walls, such as the Lich range units. They're amazing against destroying walls and stuff. So things can change, but for the most part, when you're early in the game, you need at least one catapult for each wall. Now, the front line can be kind of anything that's tanky. I mean, I'm just using bronze footmen, basically, like these guys. And then I'm using a few archers, and again, as kind of like many heroes as I can. Now, this is a very unoptimal area here that I could probably put more units. But for now, I'm not going to go into that too much. Just going to show you what it looks like when you kind of fight against a player. Now, you see it says you cannot leave once it has begun. There you go. You have to fight it out. You can obviously still use your abilities, but it will also consume mana and stuff like that. So, be wary. Now, once again, I'm going to use this heal right away as soon as I can. And this will basically mean that I lose less units. Less units will die. And now I'm going to see what I can use next. I'm going to summon some swordsmen. Like, this definitely helps soak up some of the damage. And you see some of my heroes already died because these guys on top of the wall, they snipe them very hard. And I don't have anything against that. You'll see here, like, all these guys are attacking and killing my heroes. But once the catapult attack them, you see their HP drops very, very quickly. Let's look at this one, for example. Now, its HP is pretty high. See the boulder, boom. So this is what you need. This is how you're going to get a formation to attack a wall. And you're going to make sure that it doesn't kill, like, all of your heroes. And then you have to use potions and heal them. And you can't use them for a few hours. It basically just helped to have all of these guys. Now, you're still going to lose units and still going to lose heroes, especially when you attack against gold troops, which is what I just did. But most of the time, most of the heroes survive, and you can either heal the ones that you lost or replace them when you have a lot of heroes, when you do a few siege in a row. Of course, like I said, this is really not an optimal setup that I had, but I'm just going to give you the tips about how it works best in order to kind of like know how to base the formation, and then you can build from there and practice. It will be different against dwarves, which has snipers. It will be different against humans with archers. All of these units have special abilities and stuff. So as long as you bring catapult and some good heroes to tank, you'll usually do pretty fine. Now, I've caused a lot more damage than I've taken, of course, but some of these units died, so I'm going to have to retrain and heal them, but I don't really care. They're so cheap and there's only a few of them, and the catapults did their job. If you click here, it will show you what basically happened. So of course, Basric is the MVP best hero in the game for me right now. So he does the most damage. And these catapults did that much damage to the wall. Now, you can see that not many other units do a lot of damage, especially to the wall or units. And that's because of how the nature of this game works. And this is why heroes and dragons and catapults are very important when you do a siege formation. So just to recap everything I just said, basically, when you're doing any kind of fighting, if the target has low power and it's pretty weak when you attack it, like these, for example, try and use a conservative amount of energy. So, for something like 3000 power, you'd use only one hero, maybe 2 units. You don't even need units sometimes if you have strong heroes, and you could go through a lot of this content fast. Now, there's special events with special bosses where the hero's abilities, that AP, it doesn't matter. You can, it doesn't cost you anything. It basically lets you have it for free. No units die for real and all that kind of stuff. So on these kind of events, you go all out and put as strong units and heroes as you have, and as many of them, of course. But most of the time, you'll try and be conservative when you do some of this content, as well as your heroes are really the most important. I would even suggest that you focus on heroes that have the rogue ability, which in this case are guys like this. You see Rogue here, though Mako's one of them, Bazric's one of them, Seizel's one of them. They're all really strong because they don't really need units. They do most of the damage themselves, and this really helps you against big armies, especially when they're very strong. Like, for example, my Bazric, he has the best items, a lot of good stuff, and he has a lot of might, so he does a lot of the carrying for me. Now, lastly, remember that whenever you're attacking other players, you want to have a best roster as possible in terms of heroes, as many ability points as possible and as many attributes as possible. And when you're attacking siege cities, you want to have at least 3 catapult or siege engine on your side to take down the walls, as well as if you have some heroes like Gan, who has Earthquake. These are abilities that destroy the wall and will help you take it down. And most of the injury when you attack a city or a wall comes from the ones on top of the wall. So that is something to keep in mind. That's about it for my formation basic guides for today, guys. Thank you for watching. As always, make sure to leave a comment and like and subscribe if you would like to continue with this kind of content. We're going to come out with it every week, as well as we have partnered with Lilith officially to be content creators, and we have some redeem codes from them every week to give out to some of our subscribers and people who comment on the videos. Thank you for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.